We saw Marvin Harrison Jr. play a lot of slot in the spring for Ohio State. We saw him play it a little bit in the 2 practices that we watched here in preseason camp, which is now officially over, at least from a media standpoint. We had our last interviews today, and he was one of the guys we talked to. Stephen, what did Marvin Harrison Jr., returning unanimous All-American, say about what he feels like he could be if Ohio State plays him in the slot more in 2023?
The first thing he brought up is the blocking aspect because of all those responsibilities. And as a guy who's 6'4", 205 pounds, that's probably where his skill set is best used. Now, he also said, I think I trust myself against any safety, which, I mean, yeah, that's a mismatch waiting to happen, which he acknowledged that. But he was more focused on the blocking aspect of it and how that can help the team. And then I was talking to him off to the side for some other stuff, but also I was asking him a little bit about that too. I don't think it's going to be a normal part of things, him being in the slot. I think it will show up in games that matter. So Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan, kind of what we saw in the Georgia game where they were moving him all over the place. Those are the games where you maybe need to do that because the talent gets equated a little bit. That's where I expect that to show up. So I'm not expecting to see Marvin Harrison have 15 slot snaps against Indiana because you don't need that. And as he even said, Emeka has got those slot snaps on. He's doing that. And the guys behind Emeka, you've got Xavier Johnson who can play everywhere. Brandon Ennis is coming along. Bryson Rogers, who, according to Emeka Egbuka, has been the most reliable receiver so far through fall camp. They have this board in their room. It's called the Michael Thomas target board, ironically enough. The guy who never got to enough targets. And it's based off percentages. If you're in the 70% range, you're good. That's where you want to be at. And most of the room is in the 70% range. I think the highest is Emeka Egbuka with 76%. Bryson Rogers is at 90%. And Marv, I brought that up to Marv, and he went, yeah, but he's also in the slot, so he's getting all these easy reps and whatnot. But that's from the slot position, a position that gets used that often. That's probably why you want to move Marvin into those areas when you're playing against these talent-equated opponents. But I don't expect it to be a normal part of things because it doesn't have to be. It's more something that we should see later down the line as they get into more big games.
I think of it as the opposite of what you'll see teams do on defense. It's like you're trying to create a mismatch. You're trying to, force a team to now defend you with someone else, and then that opens up something else. It won't always be about getting the ball to Harrison, but it will be sometimes because they want to, because they know teams are going to scheme to take him away. And Andrew, when you look at what Marvin Harrison Jr. is as an athlete, and I think more importantly than that, when you look at what he was as a downfield receiver, as an X-receiver last year, and when I talked to Big Ten coaches and defensive backs at Big Ten Media Day about him, one of the first things that comes up is just his ability to use his body and contort his body and make really tough catches. Does that, you think, equate to moving him into something like the slot, and what do you think that opens up for this offense?
Well, you stole my word, mismatch. That was what I was going to say. The whole time that we've been talking about this for a few weeks has been, okay, what does this add? And the number one thing I keep thinking of is other defenses are going to have to game plan for this, and that's going to matter, like Steven said, throughout the course of the year, because you mentioned it. You're going to play big teams. Notre Dame's got a really good cornerback. Michigan has a really good number one cornerback. Penn State has a really good number one cornerback. What are you going to do? You're going to send that guy around with Marvin Harrison. Okay, well, now all of a sudden you have a nickel corner. Those guys tend to be a little bit smaller, a little bit shiftier. Now all of a sudden, do you take him off the field? Do you bring on a third guy who can play on the outside? Now you have three boundary corners. How many teams have three boundary corners in the country that are on Ohio State's schedule that can match up with those three? I don't know. I don't know how many there are. I don't know how many teams there are in the country that can do that, let alone on Ohio State's schedule. So you're talking about mismatches, because then all of a sudden, if you invert a defense, even if it's for a play, even if it's for one play, and then the defensive coordinator for that team or head coach for that team figures it out, you're going to have a mismatch where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be going up against a slot corner who is a little bit smaller. And you mentioned using your body to make those catches. You're going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. going up against a linebacker. Come on. Like, that's RIP that linebacker, because his ankles are going to be in the rafters. That's what it is. Like it's not. I don't think it has anything to. I think it has a little bit to do with you want to give him some blocking reps, or you want to do this, or you want to do that with him. That's fine. But this is about causing chaos for opposing defenses. We talked about Carnell Tate a lot. If you can throw him on the field, if you have to move Marv on the inside, there's a lot of different variations that you can do with this. You can go 4 receivers on the field. I know Steven would love that idea. You can do a bunch of different things with Marv in the slot. And that is what this team is after. You're after versatility, and versatility gives mismatch, and mismatches brings touchdowns, and that's how Ohio State's going to win some football games.
Yeah, this isn't the thing that had us all excited in 2020 where they were moving Garrett Wilson to the slot and what that was going to open, because he literally moved to the slot. He was a slot receiver who then sometimes occasionally bounced outside, especially in double tight sets and things like that. I think you're right. This is going to be a little bit more of a gimmick. Not a gimmick, but a wrinkle. It's not going to be.
Case.
Yeah, I think that might be a good way to look at it, and but I think it could be a super effective one, as Andrew is saying, because I just don't know what you do as a defense when you see that happen. Especially because here's the thing that we're not even talking about: if it just means you're popping Emeka Egbuka out to the outside, that's still a problem. Mm-hmm. So you still probably have a potential first-round receiver, and now maybe he has an advantageous matchup. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch, and we get to start doing that a week from Saturday at Indiana. Get the text 614-350-3315 because we'll be giving you what we see and hear from Memorial Stadium as it happens from Buckeye Talk.